Before we get started, be sure to listen to the first 2 episodes of The Curse Breakers before you listen to this epilogue. And a quick note that this episode contains cursing. Please take note if you're listening with young Sox fans.
Bob Green didn't really have a choice when it came to his baseball allegiance. Being a Red Sox fan ran in the family. It was in his blood.
It was a tradition in the family, going back to my father and his uncles. He is a big Red Sox fan, and he gave me a warning when I was young when he took me to the game. Don't fall in love with the Red Sox. They will break your heart.
Bob is 75 years old and has lived in Massachusetts his whole life. He remembers going to watch Ted Williams play even, back in the 40s with his dad. He is as committed a Red Sox fan as you can possibly be. And through the decades, he suffered through too many Red Sox tragedies. The near victory taken away by Bucky Dent's home run in 78, Bill Buckner's embarrassing error in 86, and yet another Yankee, Aaron Boone, hitting a game-winning home run in 03. But then, in 2004, he made it to the promised land, saw the Sox lift up the World Series trophy. Like most diehard Red Sox fans, Bob can recite every single play from the playoffs that year, every stolen base, every home run. But one memory, off the field, is just as strong.
The out-of-state players, the out-of-area players didn't live in the area, would stay at local hotels. Players like the manager, Francona, Euclid, and Dave Roberts all stayed at a hotel called the Marriott in Cleveland Circle. That's where my story with the World Series kind of begins.
Bob's daughter, Becky, worked at that Marriott. And over time, she got to know the team.
She told me who played poker, who was funny, who was a slob, who was nice, and all of that. Dave Roberts came by after they traded for him. Specifically, it was for speed, and she used to call him Speedy. And he got a kick out of that. She said Terry Francona was a nice guy, but his room was a mess.
Fast forward to October 24th. That day, the Red Sox were playing the Cardinals in Game 2 of the World Series. Bob was hanging out with family when his phone rang. It was Becky.
She says, "Hey, Dad, want to go to the game tonight?" And I said, "Don't kid me. You know that they've been sold out. I'll never." She says, No, I got a ticket." I says, "Well, you got one ticket?" "Yeah, I'm willing to give it to you because you've been a fan." And I said, "Oh, that's very thoughtful." And she goes, "Oh, hold on a second. Now I got 2 tickets. So we can go together." No, stop kidding me. How did you get tickets?
But Becky wasn't joking. She got the tickets from a guy called Adam Heisdu, whose last name is often mispronounced, even by the most diehard Red Sox fans.
And only the most detailed and devoted of Red Sox fans will remember Adam Heisdu.
Adam Heisdu only played for the Sox for 1 season. That was 2004. And that year, he didn't play much, just 17 games in total. But the only number that really matters is 2, because that's how many spare tickets Adam Heisdu had for that game.
And he says to my daughter, Becky, he says, "Becky, you're the only one I know in this whole building, and I don't know anybody in the area, and you smile every time I go by. Here's 2 tickets to the game tonight." So I'm still asking my daughter, "Is this for real?" She says, "Yeah."
Bob was, of course, delighted. But there was a problem.
It was going to be 40 degrees that night. And all I got on is a little jacket, like a Barracuda jacket. So I called Becky up at the desk. Says, "Becky, we're going to freeze there. There might even snow." She says, "Don't worry about it."
Because Bob was about to give thanks to another Sox player, this time Kevin Youkilis, otherwise known as the Greek god of walks. When he stepped up to bat, fans would shout, "You!" And so Becky told her dad she had a solution.
"I have Kevin Youkilis practice jerseys. You could wear a sweatshirt, the long sleeve." So I said, "Okay, I'll be there. It's 5 o'clock. I'll be there at 6. The game starts around 7:30. We can walk to Kenmore Square, whatever you want to do. I don't even need to bring a car with me."
It was the perfect father-daughter moment, the stuff precious memories are made of. And the game itself turned out to be perfect, too.
It was unbelievable. The atmosphere in that game, people were screaming the entire game. Yeah, I mean, look, how many times do you see a World Series game in Boston? I remember the big hit.
In the air to right center field, well hit.
Varitek got a triple, of all things. Not the fastest, but he banged it.
The Sox beat the Cardinals that night and continued their march towards a World Series title. Bob kept his ticket from Game 2. 20 years on, it's crumpled and faded, and the seat number is hard to read. He pulled it out of his pocket and showed it to our producer, Steph Brown.
Yeah. So you still have the ticket.
Still, for good luck. They put it in that night. It hasn't come out of my pocket since.
Why is it good luck? Tell me why you have this ticket.
Oh, look what my daughter did for me. She thought of me right away. She could have given the tickets. She was one of her friends that should have gone to the game. But she thought of me first. And so it was just a great night. And I didn't expect to go. It's out of Adam Hedzu. I have to thank him. I don't know where he is now.
Thank you, Adam Heisdu. And thank you, Bob Green. Now, Bob's not the only one with a story like this. Many of the Red Sox fans we spoke to had their own version of Bob's golden ticket. And these memories, they matter just as much as any strike or stolen base, because the Red Sox '04 season is woven into the lives and lore of so many people across New England. So many remember where they were and what they were doing when key plays were made, and when the curse was finally broken. We heard about newborns scooped out of their cribs to bear witness to this sporting miracle, families huddled around their TV sets, and tales of fans who laid down wreaths and flags and Sox hats at the gravestones of fans who passed away before the Sox won the World Series. These stories are replayed and relived, retold over dinner tables at every Thanksgiving, and on Boston Globe podcasts. I'm Jasmine Aguilera, and this is The Curse Breakers. Epilogue, Red Sox Nation.
Yeah, well, I guess I wanted to just start here. How did you become a Red Sox fan?
My mother went to school in Boston.
This is Mike Jem. Mike's a Red Sox fan, and he also works on Boston Globe today. Mike's talking to our producer, Matt Nelson.
And in 1978, and I might use some language along the way here, the Bucky fucking Dent game, when Bucky Dent broke our hearts. My mother let me stay out of school. I was in the 4th grade to watch that single playoff game, and told me about how special the Red Sox were. And then I watched them break my heart for the very first time. It would not be the last time.
Mike relived all the core Red Sox memories, all the times the curse of the Bambino struck and the Red Sox lost. But in 2004, his memories from the Red Sox playoff run are different. Just like other diehard fans, he felt the swell of hope when David Ortiz, a.k.a. Big Papi, hit a game-winning home run in Game 4, or when Dave Roberts stole second base. That year, something happened in Mike's life that made the World Series feel less important, but at the same time, more meaningful. Here's Mike.
In 2004, in August of 2004, my wife Lola was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in October of 2004, she was in the throes of extremely aggressive chemotherapy. She was so sick. And she was sleeping like 20 hours a day. And the Red Sox were a diversion from that for me, but she also really wanted to take part in that. And she insisted that I wake her up for the ends of those games against the Yankees. And I would get her up, and then the games would tie, and it would go extra innings, and she would end up being awake for like 2 hours and struggling, but getting through it. And the Red Sox would win, and we would put on the song Dirty Water and dance in the living room, and then I would help her back to bed. At one point, when Big Papi hit the home run, or I'm not sure, it might have been a base hit just to win it in Game 5, to go back to New York to forcing Game 6, she said, and she was no hair, no eyebrows, she was sick. And she looked up at me and said, if that man can do that, I can do this.
Mike says that Lola had this rare skill. She was ambidextrous, so she could write with both hands. And while the Sox were coming back against the Yankees, she'd jot down the phrase, "reverse the curse," with her left and right hands, at the same time, over and over, filling up pages and pages in her notebook.
And it became our calling card. I bought her a pink breast cancer Manny Ramirez bat that she carried to her chemo every time she went. And when the cancer got hard, and when it got, emotionally hard for me, when cancer hits you on so many different levels, but when those things got extremely hard, our thing was we would look at each other and we would say, "We got a Big Papi this. He did that, we can do this." And I honestly believe in my heart that what that man did in the fall of 2004 bought us time. That she continued fighting when she couldn't anymore because of the belief and because of that mantra that we had. So that's what the 04 Red Sox mean to me.
In 2005, Mike says he took Lola to Fenway one last time so they could see the heroes of the 04 series up close.
June of 05, she was in remission. Hair was growing back, cancer was gone. She had a double mastectomy, but things were looking up. Things were good, and I melted a credit card, and we did a VIP penthouse suite, front row seats at Fenway for 3 games weekend. And just had an absolute incredible time. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. The first game, we are walking up Lansdowne Street, and the players are arriving. And we hear this crazy Dominican music bouncing off the buildings and you can hear it coming from blocks away. And sure enough, around the corner comes this ridiculous $500,000 bright red Mercedes-Benz convertible, and it's Big Papi. And he's got the music just freaking cranked. And we're right up at the barricade where the cops pull the barricade away so the players can pull into the parking garage. And he pulls up, and the music's just blaring. We wave, he waves, and the cop is a little slow coming out to the barricade. And so he's sitting there, and this Range Rover pulls up next to him with tinted windows. And as the cop pulls out the barricade, the guy cuts him off. This is Big Papi. Who's cutting off Big Papi? Right? And Big Papi goes like this, and there's this sort of mock road rage thing happening. And the window comes down, and it's Tim Wakefield. And he was starting pitching that night. And Papi goes, "You're starting, you go ahead." And Wakefield pulls into the parking lot. And so that's my Tim Wakefield story. And the fact that it happened 2 feet in front of me and my wife was just very special.
This brush with pitcher Tim Wakefield meant a lot. Lola had just recovered from her mastectomy, and as Mike says, he would have melted a credit card to see the Red Sox win the World Series with her. But instead, he melted a credit card the next year and bought 3 game tickets for the best seats in the house. He and Lola stayed in the penthouse suites at the Sheraton, ate at top-notch restaurants, and had a personal driver all weekend. He said he really learned an appreciation for living your best life once your life is truly threatened. Go big or go home. 3 years later, in 2008, Lola passed away at age 42. Mike says despite the tragedy, he'd do it all again in a second, even with the grief, because that love was special. And so Mike treasures this story even more now, because in October of 2023, almost 20 years after Mike saw that parking lot exchange, Tim Wakefield tragically died of brain cancer. Then, a few months later, Tim's wife, Stacy Wakefield, also died of cancer.
He gave so much to this game and all of Red Sox Nation. At this time, we ask that you please join us in a moment of silence as we remember Tim Wakefield.
Tim was memorialized by his old teammates on April 9th. Tim's a guy who's just as remembered for being a great dude as he is for his knuckleball or breaking the curse of the Bambino. The team walked onto the field holding the World Series trophy. They were led out by Tim and Stacy's children, Brianna and Trevor. and Brianna threw out the ceremonial first pitch.
Okay, Brianna, let's see a pitch.
Mike was there at Fenway that day, up in the stands.
I went to opening day, and they might still be mopping up around my seat because I cried through the whole damn thing. When he brought his kids out to throw out the first pitch, I just, waterworks, man. It was something else. So, yeah, and I think that, mine is a special one, but I think that if you talk to Bostonians about what the Red Sox, what 04 Red Sox mean to them, you'll hear a lot of stories like mine. You'll hear a lot about how it's intertwined with their personal lives.
That was Mike Gem. Coming up after the break, the infinite patience of a pregnant wife, her Red Sox fanatic husband, and the baby born during Game 4 of the World Series. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Mike Bello, Deputy City Editor for the Boston Globe. If you're enjoying this episode so far, please subscribe to this feed where we will periodically drop new and exciting stories when we have them. Sit with us and experience the best of the Boston Globe in your ears. So send a text to someone you know who would enjoy the podcast so they will never miss a drop.
My name is Jamie Andrews. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire called Henniker. I went to college at Wheaton College in Norton, Mass., and I've lived in the greater Boston area, including Somerville, Woburn, and for the last 25 years, Weymouth.
What about you?
My name is Alice Andrews. I'm from a small town in Maine. I went to college at BU, and I've been living in the Boston area ever since then, and now we've been in Weymouth for 25 years.
Jamie and Alice Andrews told their 2004 Red Sox story to our producer, Steph Brown. So, Jamie, he's a hardcore Sox fan, been following the team most of his life. The first game he ever saw was the infamous Bucky Dent game.
I was probably 7 years old when that happened, and yeah, that was my introduction. My baptism to the Red Sox was watching Bucky Dent break everybody's heart.
Jamie's wife, Alice, is not a hardcore Sox fan, but she takes an interest. And let's be honest, it was probably impossible for her not to. So they were a Red Sox household, that's for sure. Now, back in 2004, the Andrews had one kid, but they wanted to add to their family. And in the spring of that year, they got some good news.
Do you remember how you felt around that time, like when you found out you were pregnant?
Well, I had wanted to space our children the way my brother and I are spaced, which was 2 years and 2 months. Our kids ended up being 2 years, 3 months, but close enough.
Yeah.
So we were trying for him, and it happened very quickly. Yep, very quickly. And at the time, we didn't have the Red Sox, we weren't even thinking about that it might conflict.
Yeah.
We were just very happy our second one was coming.
And then when baseball season started, and it was obvious the Red Sox were loaded and they had a really good chance of actually making it to the World Series, I started to realize, oh, wow, our due date is October 27th. That is right when the World Series happens. And I brought it up. I'm like, there's a chance that the Red Sox might be in the World Series when this baby's born. And then, the concern was that, what are you going to want to watch? Are you going to want to watch the Red Sox, or are you going to want to watch the birth of your child? Because I was that ardent of a fan.
When he first said that there might be, a conflict, I was bummed. I was like, oh no, that's just great.
Alice basically said to me, I'm not even inviting you into the delivery room if there's a game on. You can watch the game because you're not invited if that happens. And so I was like, come on, I want to be there for the birth. It's okay. We'll just record the game. So that was kind of where we left it. And after that conversation, we kind of dropped it. We didn't talk about it much until the Yankees series.
Here it is. Ground ball to second. Reese. The Boston Red Sox have won the pennant.
But even then, I will say, I was still trying to reassure her that it wasn't going to happen. Because what I said was, look, our due date's October 27th. That's game 4 of the World Series. There's no chance the Red Sox are going to sweep the World Series. If they're going to break this curse, it's going to be game 7. It's going to be extra innings. They're not going to take it easy on us. That's not how the Red Sox roll. We were still sort of playing this mind game, like, sort of on the fence. Do we want this? Like, she didn't want it, but I kind of
Yeah, I still didn't want it. I just was saying a piece of me thought it could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I still didn't want it to happen. A conflict.
Okay, so now we're going to the day. We're going to the day. The morning of game 4, Alice, you go into labor. From your perspective, take me to that day. What happens? Where are you? I know it can get graphic, but I want on it. All of it. How are you feeling? Take me to that day.
The due date came October 27th. No baby yet. And it was probably early afternoon when I went into labor, and I was like, oh, yep, just my luck, because the final game was going to be that night.
Yes, it is game 4 in St. Louis, but in Boston it is all about the Red Sox from the State House building in Boston, where even Republicans and Democrats can agree on one thing: go Sox.
Contractions were still far apart. We went to this seafood restaurant called Caswell's, just a counter service seafood restaurant in Weymouth. It's gone now. And in between eating my clam strips and dipping French fries in chowder, I was writing down my contractions, and I had a nice full belly. Finally, we decided we better get to the hospital. And
we get to the hospital, and then, it took a while for the doctors and everybody to settle us in. And then she went and she had the epidural put in. And then once they put the epidural in, she wasn't feeling any pain. The chaos went away and everything calmed down. And we're just in this delivery room with one nurse. The doctors are all, they're like, we'll come back when you're more dilated. You're nowhere near ready to deliver. So just relax. You have some time here. So I looked up at the wall in front of the bed, and there was a TV there. And, well, it's almost 8 o'clock. Doesn't the game start right about now? Hey, honey, do you mind if we put on the game? And she's like, yeah, I guess that would be okay. Let's put on the game.
It's red glare, the bombs bursting in.
And it was implied that it would be turned off for the birth. That was made clear.
So we start watching the game, and Johnny Damon was the leadoff hitter. Alice didn't know that much about the team, but she sure knew who Johnny Damon was, because he was a good-looking guy. All the women kind of liked him a little bit. And so she sees Johnny Damon on the TV, and first thing out of her mouth is, Johnny Damon, he'll hit a homer.
And that ball is ripped into right field. Walker is back at the wall.
That's how that game started. Johnny Damon hitting a home run.
What a start, 1-0 Boston here in game 4.
And I, at this point, like the gravity of the situation is really starting to hit me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. This is actually going to happen. And all of a sudden, I didn't really feel very well. Like I started to feel sick. What is wrong with me? And I'm starting to sweat a little bit. I'm like, ugh. And I couldn't really take a deep breath too. I felt short of breath, and I was like, what the hell's wrong with me? So, I go in the bathroom and I sort of wash my face a little bit, and I looked at myself and I had broken out in hives. My neck was beet red. I picked up my shirt. I had these big splotches on my stomach, and I'm like, oh my God, I broke out in hives because I'm so up in my head about all of the things going on. I come out of the bathroom and I look at her. I'm like, you're not going to believe I'm saying this, but we got to turn the game off. And I just sort of closed my eyes. I relaxed. I felt like I was the one delivering at this point. Like, I need more support than she does.
Okay, to interject just a little bit here, the love between Alice and Jamie must be the truest form of love. Because when I heard that, my eyes rolled so far to the back of my head, I must have pulled an ocular muscle. But obviously, Alice has heard it before, and Jamie's still alive. So it must be true love.
So at one point, we wanted to know when is this baby going to come? Like,
Good question.
and is
Rough
it going to
estimate.
come before the end of the game or after the game? Because, we were sitting there for hours. We didn't really know what they were predicting. And keep in mind, we're in Weymouth at the time in South Shore Hospital. Nobody wants to be there. Everybody wants to be watching the game. A lot of the nurses are walking around with Red Sox jerseys on over their scrubs. And I know, nobody wanted to be there. It was kind of a bad time to have a baby in New England because nobody wanted to be there. Keep that in mind when I asked the doctor, so when is this baby going to come? He goes, well, I tell you what, I can go in right now and break her water, and I guarantee that baby will be out before the end of the game. And I just looked at the guy like, you son of a bitch. I am not doing that because of a baseball game. We are letting nature do what nature does.
He figured the doctor just wanted to get home to it.
Obviously, the doctor wanted to watch the end of the game. There's no way a doctor suggests that unless that's what's in the back of his mind. So whatever. The bottom line is
No, we didn't want to be induced.
But when the baby actually comes, a bunch of new people come in to help with the actual delivery, including a couple nurses with Red Sox scrubs on. And as they started coming in, and of course the chaos is increasing because she's getting closer and closer to delivery and all these people are coming in, one of the nurses muttered under her breath, oh, and I wanted to see the bottom of the ninth. And the way she said it, they're winning the game. She wanted to see the end of the game. She didn't just want to see the bottom of the ninth. She wanted to see them win it. And we focused on the birth, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, ooh, this is totally happening right now.
They weighed the baby. We held the baby.
Yeah, so the baby came out. It's a boy with long brown hair. We're both blondes. Our first baby was bald. And to have a baby with long brown hair on the same night that she had called the Johnny Damon home run, it was almost like we had little Johnny Damon in the room. It was funny. And so anyways, he was so cute and healthy and everything was perfect. And, we were very happy, but it was our second child. And I will tell you that although we were happy, after, the incubator and all that's happening, I remember thinking, I don't feel as happy as I should feel right now. And I just looked at her and I gotta know. And she goes, okay, put it on. And then so I grabbed the remote and I put on the game right as they're jumping up and down on the mound. And at that moment, yes, I had the right feelings, all of the flood of, wow, not only was I as happy as I should be, I was way happier in some ways than I was with the first, because holy cow, this actually happened. It really did. The Red Sox won the World Series.
The Boston Red Sox are champions of baseball.
And we had a child at the same time. And then, at some point, someone pointed out, and it's a full eclipse. I'm like, yeah, cool, but that's nowhere near as cool as breaking the curse and having a baby at the exact same time. So to me, that was that one moment when I turned on the TV. That's when all my emotions finally aligned to be appropriate for the moment. And it was one of the greatest moments of my life, I have to say.
And by then I decided it was pretty cool, the coincidence. And the name Damon was on our list, but we weren't decided yet until after the game. Then we knew we were going to name him Damon.
So when Jamie and Alice spoke to our producer, Steph, Damon was in the room. He'll turn 20 on October 27th, 20 years later to the day after the Red Sox won the World Series championship. And Steph pulled him in to talk about the day he was born.
Yeah, and okay, Damon, you're over there. Do you want to come here for a second? Yeah. Tell me, when did you first hear this story and how did you feel about it?
I don't know when I first heard this story, probably when I was too young to remember. But, I think the story is really cool. I don't tell people too often. Sometimes I forget. Somebody will be like, what, you never told me that story? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you do have long hair now. Does that have anything to do with being Damon?
I have long hair, but that's unrelated.
So after Damon was born, the year after, Johnny Damon left the Red Sox and went to the Yankees. And I cannot tell you how many people asked me if I was going to change Damon's name.
And some people asked if we were going to change it to Coco Crisp, who replaced Johnny
That's
Damon.
right. Forgot about that. But of course, my answer was no. I'm not going to change his name.
That was Jamie and Alice Andrews talking to our producer, Steph Brown.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
There's this quote that's attributed to Pope John Paul II. It goes like this: "Out of all the unimportant things, football is the most important." Now, the Pope was talking about soccer here. I don't think they care too much about baseball in the Vatican, but something tells me that you can say the same thing about baseball. And fans like Bob and Mike and Jamie and Angie, they'd all agree that baseball, and the Red Sox team of '04 in particular, it's the most important thing of all of the unimportant things. All right, one last time.
I'm your announcer, live from the press box, Jasmine Aguilera. Tonight's starting pitchers. This episode was written by Matthew Nelson and produced by Matthew Nelson, Steph Brown, and me. The Boston Globe's batting order. This podcast is produced by Steph Brown, Matthew Nelson, and me. Our audio intern is Mara Mellitz. In the dugout, our editor and executive producer is Kristen Nelson. Senior Assistant Sports Editor Katie McInerney saw this project through and was our clutch hitter. And behind the plate, our fact checker is Matt Mahoney. Our theme music is by Sam Bagola, mixing and sound design by Uzair Ahmed. Special thanks to Boston Globe Sports Editor Matt Pepin and Deputy Sports Editor Scott Thurston. Special thanks to Boston Globe editor Nancy Barnes.
And lastly, a huge thank you to all of the Sox fans who shared their stories with us. Cheryl Cosmo, Anna Kuzmer, Mike Jem, Benjamin Cherry, Lucas Restivo, Rob Green, and Jamie and Alice Andrews. And just a quick note, the Boston Globe's owner, John Henry, also owns the Red Sox. This was an independent Globe production.
There's never going to be anything like that again for me. I saw it. They did it. They beat the Yankees 4 in a row. You couldn't have a more satisfying way to finally do it than what happened.